The alarm woke at dawn, just like every other morning on 7. She pulled herself from the narrow bed and looked out the window at the purple sky. 3 years she had lived on this planet, studying the animals that called it home. 3 years of reports, samples, and careful observations. Some days felt longer than others. She made coffee in the small kitchen of the research station. The machine hummed and gurgled familiar sounds that reminded her of Earth. Outside, the twin suns were starting to rise over the rocky hills. The landscape glowed orange and pink in the early light. Beautiful, she thought, but lonely. Was already in the main lab when she arrived. He looked up from his screen and nodded. Morning, sleep okay. Well enough, said. She set her coffee down and checked the overnight sensor data. Anything interesting? Motion detector went off near the east perimeter around 3 a.m., probably just a wind storm. Stretched and yawned. I'm going to catch a few more hours. You good here? Yeah, go ahead. After he left, reviewed the sensor logs more carefully. The motion pattern looked wrong for wind. Something had moved past the sensors, something large enough to trigger them but not heavy enough to set off the ground pressure plates. Curious, she grabbed a field kit and headed outside. The morning air was cool and thin, pulled her jacket and walked toward the eastern fence. The ground here was covered in small purple plants that crunched under her boots. She followed the sensor markers, scanning for any signs of animal tracks. She found them near a cluster of rocks, strange prints 5-toed with claw marks pressed deep into the soft earth. They led away from the station, toward the canyon where few humans ever went. Hesitated. Protocol said she should report this and wait for backup, but something pulled at her, a feeling she couldn't name. She followed the tracks. The canyon walls rose up on either side, casting long shadows. The air smelled different here, sharp and metallic. His handheld scanner showed elevated readings of some compounds she didn't recognize. She made mental notes to collect samples later. Then she heard it, a soft whimpering sound almost like crying. Moved carefully around a boulder and stopped. There, huddled against the rock wall, was a creature unlike anything in her database. It was about the size of a large dog but built differently, with 4 legs and a long tail. Its body was covered in quills that glowed faintly, shifting between red and dark purple. The quills lay flat against its body in a way that looked painful. The creature's left front leg was bent at a wrong angle. Blood, dark blue instead of red, stained the ground beneath it. When it saw, the quills stood up sharp and the color flashed bright red. It made a hissing sound and tried to back away, but the injured leg wouldn't support its weight. Easy, whispered. She knelt slowly, making herself smaller. I'm not going to hurt you. The creature watched her with large eyes that had horizontal pupils. Its quills trembled, flashing between red and orange. Could see intelligence in those eyes and fear and something else. Pain. She had seen that look before, in animals back on Earth. The look of a creature that knew it was vulnerable and alone. Slowly, carefully, reached into her field kit. She pulled out a medical scanner and held it up so the creature could see it. Just checking your leg, okay? This won't hurt. The scanner beeped softly as it analyzed the injury. Broken bone, torn muscle, signs of infection starting. Without treatment, the creature would die out here, made her decision. I'm going to pick you up now, she said softly. Please don't stick me with those quills. The creature hissed again but didn't try to run. When lifted it, the quills stayed flat, though they pulsed with orange light. The creature was heavier than it looked, solid muscle under the unusual skin. It whimpered as she adjusted her grip, and its heart ached at the sound. I know, we'll fix it, I promise. The walk back to the station felt like it took hours. The creature stayed still in her arms, its breathing fast and shallow. By the time reached the medical lab, her arms were shaking from the weight. She laid the creature on the examination table as gently as she could. It didn't fight her, just watched with those strange eyes as she gathered supplies. Had treated plenty of Earth animals before, but this was different. She didn't know this creature's biology, its tolerance for pain medication, or whether her equipment would even work on it. She started with the scanner, building a detailed picture of the creature's internal structure. 2 hearts, she noted with surprise. A complex digestive system. The broken bone in the leg was clean at least, not shattered. She could work with this. The sedative was the biggest risk. Too little and the creature would suffer during treatment. Too much and it might never wake up. Calculated the dose 3 times before loading the injector. Her hands were steady as she pressed it against the creature's shoulder. The quills flashed bright yellow, then slowly faded to a soft blue. The creature's eyes closed, let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. She worked for 2 hours, setting the bone, cleaning the wound, sealing the torn muscle with medical gel. The creature's biology was strange but not impossible to work with. Its blood clotted quickly once she figured out the right coagulant. The quills retracted when the creature was unconscious, revealing smooth skin underneath that felt surprisingly warm. When she finished, stepped back and looked at her work. The leg was splinted and wrapped. The creature was breathing steadily, its 2 hearts beating in a rhythm that the monitor said was normal. It would live. "What are you?" wondered aloud. She pulled up the planetary database and started searching. Most of Seven's fauna had been cataloged, at least in basic terms, but this creature wasn't in any of the records she could find. The door hissed open and walked in. He stopped when he saw the creature on the table. His face went pale, then red. "Please tell me that's not what I think it is. I found it injured in the canyon. It would have died." His voice was tight. A cub. Looked at the creature with new understanding. The warrior species that lived in the deep territories, the ones who had refused all human contact for 30 years, the ones who had made it very clear they wanted nothing to do with Earth's colonies. "Oh," she said quietly. "Oh, that's all you have to say," ran his hand through his hair. "Do you know what this could mean? If they think we took one of their young, we could start a war." "I didn't take it, I saved it." "They won't see it that way," paced the small lab. "We need to report this, right now. Get command involved, figure out how to return it without causing an incident. It's barely stable. Moving it now could kill it. And keeping it could kill all of us." They stared at each other across the sleeping cub. Nu was right. This was bigger than her, bigger than one injured animal. But when she looked at the small creature, its quills now glowing a soft, peaceful green in sleep, she couldn't bring herself to regret her choice. "Give me 3 days," she said. "Let me make sure it's strong enough to travel. Then we'll figure out what to do." Looked like he wanted to argue, but finally he nodded. 3 days, but you're playing with fire here." After he left, pulled up a chair next to the examination table. The cub's eyes moved under its eyelids like it was dreaming. She wondered what it dreamed about. Home, maybe. Family, safety. "I'll call you," she said softly. "Spring, because everyone deserves a new beginning." The cub's quills pulsed once with warm yellow light, and chose to believe it was agreement. 3 days turned into a week, then 2. Was healing faster than had expected. The broken leg was mending well, and the cub could put weight on it now without crying out, but found reasons to delay, to wait just 1 more day to make sure everything was perfect. The truth was, she didn't want to let go. Had moved from the medical lab to a makeshift enclosure in quarters. It wasn't ideal, but the cub seemed comfortable there. Every morning, woke to find watching her from across the room, quills glowing soft blue. The color had puzzled her at first until she realized it appeared whenever was calm and content. "Good morning," said, sitting up. Quills shifted to yellow-green, a color she had started to associate with excitement. The cub made a chirping sound and hopped toward her, favoring the healing leg only slightly now. Had spent hours each day observing quill patterns. Red meant fear or anger. Orange was uncertainty. Yellow was curiosity. Blue was calm. Green was contentment. Purple was sadness, but there were dozens of other colors and combinations she couldn't begin to interpret. Each pattern seemed to carry meaning, like a language written in light. She had called in help. One of the station's technology specialists had arrived from the North Compound 3 days ago. Now she sat in its lab, working on a strange device that looked like a headband covered in sensors. The quills aren't just visual, explained, not looking up from her soldering. They're producing subsonic frequencies. Humans can't hear them, but they're there, complex patterns like speech. Watched play with a rubber ball she had given it. The cub would push it with its nose, then pounce when it rolled away. Simple, playful behavior that reminded her of Earth puppies, except the quills flashed with color at each action, and now she knew there was sound too, a conversation she couldn't hear. So this device will translate. Translate is too strong a word. It'll give us a rough idea of emotional content. The AI can learn basic patterns over time, but we're talking about an entire alien language here. It's going to take years to really understand it. But it's a start. It's a start, agreed. She held up the headband. Want to try it? Put it on carefully. The sensors felt cool against her temples. Tapped a few commands on her tablet and suddenly could hear something. Not words exactly, but impressions, feelings. When quills flashed yellow as the ball rolled, she felt curiosity, joy, play. When they shifted blue as looked at her, she felt safe, warm. Pack. Pack, said aloud. The word had come through clearly, mixed with the emotional content. His head tilted, quills rippling with interest. The cub chirped and walked over to her, moving more confidently now. It pressed against her leg, quills glowing bright blue, and through the translator felt Pac-Bon belong safe. Her throat tightened. You think I'm your pack? More chirping. The feeling that came through was complex, layered, not mother but safe, hurt gone, alone then found. Where's your real pack? Asked softly. She ran her hand carefully along the cub's back, avoiding the quills. What happened to them? The quills flashed dark purple, then red. The emotions hit like a wave, fear, pain, running, lost. Images came too, fragmentary and confused. Loud noises, bright lights, other scattering, the smell of smoke. An attack, said quietly. She was watching her tablet where the emotional data was being recorded. Something attacked their group. Whimpered and pressed closer to. The quills were trembling now, cycling between purple and red. Held the small creature, making soft sounds she hoped were comforting. Slowly, the quills settled back to blue. Bad people came through the translator, though the concept was more complex than that. Not, take, steal, hurt, pack, run, run, run. Slavers, said, feeling sick. There were reports of illegal operations in the outer territories, groups that captured sapient beings and sold them off-world. She had never imagined they would target the. You got separated when your pack was running away. Agreement, yes, alone, lost, scared, then found you, safe now. Over the next week and worked to understand more. They learned that cubs were more emotionally aware than human children, could sense moods, responding to her stress with calming purple patterns or her happiness with bright yellows. The cub's emotional intelligence was remarkable. They also learned that was teaching them. The cub would point to objects and cycle through colors, waiting for them to repeat the pattern back. It was like a game, but with purpose. This stone, the pattern said. This water, this food. Simple concepts at first, then more complex ones. This fear, this love, this home. Home, repeated one evening, watching quills create the pattern. It was deep blue mixed with gold, with a subsonic frequency that made her chest ache. You miss home. Pressed close, quills dimming to soft blue. Miss home, yes, but you're also home now, pack with you. Understood then what had been warning her about. The longer stayed, the stronger their bond grew. The cub was starting to see her as family, and she was starting to see the same way. Noticed it too. You know we can't keep it forever, right? Somewhere out there has a real family, parents who are probably searching. I know, said, but her heart wasn't ready to accept it. She threw herself into research, spending every free moment learning about the database had limited information. They were a private people who avoided outsiders, but there were some basics. They lived in close-knit packs, usually family groups. They were skilled hunters and warriors with a culture that valued strength and honor. Cubs stayed with their parents until maturity, learning the ways of the pack. And they were fiercely protective of their young. Created enrichment activities based on what she learned. She built a climbing structure from lab equipment. She brought in rocks and plants from outside to investigate. She even tried to replicate some of the foods mentioned in the reports, though most attempts ended with politely refusing to eat. But the cub loved puzzle feeders, would hide treats inside complex boxes, and would work for hours to figure out how to open them. The quills would flash with intense focus concentration challenge, then burst into triumphant yellow when success came. Afterward would bring the treat to share, even though she couldn't eat food. "You're supposed to eat it," laughed. "I made it for you." Pack shares insisted, good things together. Those moments were precious, but they were also bittersweet because knew they couldn't last. Grew more worried each day. 3 weeks, the cub is healthy now. We need to contact the authorities. And say what? Sorry, we found your child, here it is. They don't even talk to humans. We have to try. Every day we wait makes this worse. Knew he was right. But when she looked at sleeping curled up on the blanket she had given it, quills glowing soft blue in dreams, she couldn't bring herself to make the call. Not yet. Had started bringing her gifts. Smooth stones from outside, interesting plant specimens. Once, a small piece of shiny metal from who knows where. The cub would present them proudly, quills bright yellow, and wait for reaction. "For me," would say, and quills would pulse with "yes, for you like it." Explained it was a bonding behavior. Young brought gifts to their pack members, strengthening social connections. It was instinct, hardwired into their biology. Was treating like family because, in the cub's mind, she was family. One night sat within her quarters, watching the stars through the window. The cub was pressed against her side, quills glowing a peaceful blue-green. Through the translator, she could feel content safe-pack love. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. "I want to keep you safe, but you deserve to be with your own kind, with your real family." Quills shifted, and the feeling that came through was complex. "You are pack, you are family, real is this, now is this. But what about your parents? They must be searching for you. Remember them, yes. Miss them, yes, but also love you. Can be both." Could it be both? Wondered. Could a small cub love a human and its birth family? Could connections span across species, across cultures, across everything that made them different? Looking at, feeling the pure trust and affection flowing through the quill patterns, thought maybe it could. Maybe love was bigger than biology. Maybe pack was about choice as much as blood. But that didn't answer the real question: what happened next? The answer came 2 days later, in a way never expected. The message came at midnight local time. Was in the lab, checking latest health scans when her personal comm started flashing with urgent priority tags. Earth communication, direct line, family emergency. Her hands shook as she opened it. The words swam in front of her eyes. Transport accident, critical failure, no survivors, her brother's name. Age 23, gone. The room tilted. Sat down hard, her legs giving out. This had to be wrong, some mistake. Was supposed to visit her next year. They had plans. He was going to see 7, laugh at her tiny quarters, complain about the food. He was supposed to have a whole life ahead of him. But the message kept going. Details about the accident. The funeral would be in 4 days, Earth time. Given her location, there was no way she could make it back. It would take 3 weeks just to reach the nearest jump gate. She read it again, then again. The words didn't change. Chirped from the corner, quills flashing concerned orange. The cub moved toward her but barely noticed. She was seeing his face, hearing his laugh, remembering the last time they had talked. 2 months ago. They had argued about something stupid, she couldn't even remember what. And now that was the last conversation they would ever have. Dr. Han's voice came through the comm. I saw the flag on your channel. Is everything okay? No, said, her voice sounded strange, distant. Nothing's okay. Came to the lab. So did, they said kind things, offered help, told her to take time. Nodded and thanked them and felt nothing. The numbness was a blessing. If she let herself feel it, really feel it, she would shatter. She went through the motions for 2 days. Ate because she had to. Worked because stopping meant thinking. Talked to because the cub needed care. But inside she was hollow. The 3rd day, it caught up with her. She was in her quarters trying to write something for his memorial service. Something his friends could read since she couldn't be there. But every word felt wrong. How could she sum up her brother's life in a few paragraphs? How could she say goodbye through a screen, across light years of empty space? The tears started and wouldn't stop. Big, choking sobs that hurt her chest and made her gasp for air. She curled up on her bed, hugging a pillow, and cried for her brother. For all the things he would never do. For all the conversations they would never have. For the unfairness of it all. She didn't hear come in. Didn't notice the cub until small sounds broke through her grief. Soft whimpering like the day they had met. When looked up, she saw standing a few feet away, quills completely drooped against the cub's body. They were deep indigo, a color she had never seen before. So dark they were almost black. The quills trembled and drooped further, lying flat in a way that looked painful. Eyes were fixed on her face, and through the translator still on her nightstand felt waves of emotion, distress, concern, shared pain. The cub understood. Not the details maybe, not the human concepts of death and loss, but knew that was hurting, that something terrible had happened. And the young felt it too, absorbed it the way they absorbed all emotions around them. I'm sorry, whispered, you shouldn't have to feel this. But moved forward. Slowly, deliberately, the cub climbed onto the bed. This was unusual, avoided vulnerable positions. They were predators, hunters, always alert. Lying down meant trusting completely. It meant putting yourself in danger. Climbed into his lap and curled up there, quills still drooped and dark. The cub pressed close and stayed still. Through the translator came simple feelings, not alone, packed together, share hurt. Something broke inside then. She wrapped her arms around and cried harder but different now. Not just grief but also gratitude. This small alien creature from a species that supposedly valued only strength was offering comfort, was choosing to be vulnerable because needed it. The quills began to vibrate softly. It was a gentle sensation, warm and rhythmic like a heartbeat. The translator picked up the meaning, comfort, comfort, safe together. The vibration seemed to ease something in his chest, made breathing a little easier. Thank you, she whispered into his shoulder. Thank you. They stayed like that for a long time. Hours maybe. Cried until she had no tears left and stayed perfectly still, quills humming their gentle comfort. The cub never complained, never tried to leave, just offered its small presence as an anchor in the storm. When finally calmed down enough to breathe normally, she realized something profound. For weeks, she had been thinking of as something she was caring for, protecting, studying. But this moment reversed everything. Right now was caring for her. This small cub who should have been scared and alone was strong enough to share her pain. You're remarkable, said softly. You know that. Quills lifted slightly, shifting from deep indigo to purple. Pack helps back, the meaning came through, when hurt together less. It was such a simple concept, but so true. The pain hadn't gone away. Was still gone, the unfairness still burned, the empty years ahead still stretched out impossibly long. But sharing it, having someone witness it without trying to fix it, made it bearable. Over the next hours, talked too. About growing up together. About the fights and the laughter and all the small moments that make up a life. The cub couldn't understand the words but listened anyway, quills pulsing with soft purple light that said, "I hear you and I'm here and you not alone." She told about the time had tried to cook dinner and nearly burned down their apartment, about his terrible jokes, about how he had supported her decision to come to Seven, even though it meant being apart, about how proud he was when she discovered a new species of plant, about everything and nothing. And slowly the indigo faded from quills, replaced by gentle purple and blue. The cub was feeling her grief, but also absorbing her love for her brother, her happy memories. Emotional empathy worked both ways, realized. Shared her pain, but also her joy in remembering. When checked on them that evening, she found them curled together on the bed. Was asleep, quills glowing soft blue-purple. Was awake but calmer, one hand resting on the cub's warm side. "How are you doing?" asked quietly. "Better than I was," stroked back carefully. "This little one has been taking care of me." Smiled sadly. Cubs are more empathetic than we realized. All our research focused on adult warriors. Nobody thought to study what the children might be capable of. "They're capable of love," said. "Real, profound love. The kind that shows up when things are hardest." That night managed to finish writing about. It was short and simple, but true. She talked about his kindness, his humor, and how much he had meant to her. She ended with a thought that had helped her understand that love doesn't end when someone dies. It changes shape, becomes memory and story, but it stays. Just like house love for its missing pack could coexist with love for. Before she sent it off, she added one more line. "My brother taught me that family is about showing up for each other, especially when it's hard. Today, someone showed up for me in a way I never expected. I wish could have met them. He would have understood." She hit send and felt something settle inside her. The grief was still there, would be there for a long time, but it didn't feel quite so crushing now. Woke up and chirped softly. The quills had returned to their normal blue, with threads of gold running through. The cub climbed back into her lap without hesitation, something that had become their evening routine. "You changed everything, told. Before today, I thought I was just a scientist studying an alien species, learning about your biology, your language, your culture. But you taught me something more important." Tilted its head, quills flickering with curiosity. "You taught me that some things are universal, grief is universal, and so is comfort. So is showing up for the people you care about. Those things don't need translation." Pack Truth agreed through the quills. "Love bigger than words." Held the small cub and watched the stars through the window. Somewhere out there was Earth, where her brother was being laid to rest without her. And somewhere else on this planet was family, who might still be searching. So much loss and separation, so much distance between people who loved each other. But right here in this moment they had each other. A human and a cub, two beings from different worlds who had found connection in shared tears. The quills that once bristled in fear now lay soft and trusting in her arms, and understood that this was what being human meant at its core. Not technology or science or conquest. Just this, the ability to reach across impossible divides and say, "I see your pain, I'm here, you're not alone." It was enough, for now it was enough. But tomorrow would bring new challenges, because the universe, as was learning, never stayed still for long. The ships arrived at dawn, 3 of them, sleek and dark against the purple sky. They landed outside the station perimeter with a precision that spoke of military training. Alarms started wailing throughout the compound. Ran to the command center, her heart pounding. Raced alongside her, quills flashing between orange and red. The cub knew something was wrong. Was already there, staring at the security monitors. On the screens, figures emerged from the ships. They were tall, easily 7 feet, covered in the same quills as but larger and denser. They moved with deadly grace, and even through the cameras could see the weapons they carried. Said his face was pale, a full war party. One figure stood apart from the others, larger than the rest, with quills that shimmered silver blue. Next to them was a human, wearing a diplomatic vest marked with translation equipment. The human raised his hands in a peaceful gesture and approached the station's outer door. "This is certified human liaison," the man's voice came through the comm. "The pack leader wishes to speak with whoever is in charge here. They are searching for a missing cub." And exchanged glances. This was it, the moment they had been dreading. "I'll handle this," said, but shook her head. "No, I took care of. This is my responsibility." Was pressed against her leg, Quills cycling rapidly through colors. Through the translator she felt confusion, fear, recognition. The cub knew those scents, those sounds. Pack nearby, family close, but also scared. They met in the station's main conference room. Entered first and had to fight not to step back. The leader was massive, built like a predator, with scars across the visible skin between quills. Those quills were standing straight up, pure aggressive red. Behind them came 3 other warriors, equally imposing. Entered last, looking tense. He was in his 40s, guessed, with the weathered look of someone who had spent years on the frontier. His eyes found immediately, and relief flashed across his face. "Thank the stars," he breathed. Then louder, "The cub is here, alive and apparently healthy." Squills rippled and sound came out that the human ear could barely process. Translator equipment hummed as it worked. "Where? How? Explain." Stepped forward, forcing herself to stay calm. "I found injured in the Eastern Canyon 3 weeks ago. Broken leg, infected wound. I brought them here and provided medical care." 3 weeks, Translated's response. "The cub has been here 3 weeks and you reported nothing. I wanted to make sure it was stable before." Made a sharp sound, Quills flashing brighter red. Winced. "The leader says that sounds like an excuse. They want to know if you took the cub, if humans are responsible for the attack on their pack." "No," said firmly. "We would never. I found alone and hurt. I helped because it was the right thing to do." Behind her made a small chirp. The cub's quills were flashing orange with threads of blue, and it was looking at with clear recognition. "Family pack parent," came through the translator. Quills shifted slightly, less aggressive red, more purple mixed in. The leader moved toward, and his instinct was to step in front of the cub, protective, defensive. The room went silent. The other warriors tensed, hands moving to weapons, made a choking sound, even looked horrified. "Dr. Han," the liaison said very carefully, "you just challenged a pack leader over their own child." Realized what she had done, but she didn't move. Was hurt and scared. "I won't let anyone hurt them again." Stared at her for a long moment. Then the leader made a sound that might have been laughter or a growl. "Translate exactly," they told. "This small human thinks she can stop me, brave or foolish." "Maybe both," said. "But I made a promise to take care of. I keep my promises." Moved then, sliding out from behind. The cub approached slowly, quills showing a complex pattern of emotions. Happy to see but also scared. Love parent but also love her. Quills softened to purple-blue. The leader lowered down, making a rumbling sound. Chirped back, and then the cub did something unexpected. It moved between and, positioning itself in the middle. The quills flashed a pattern had never seen before. Gasped, that's a pack bond declaration. The cub is claiming both of you as pack." Both repeated. "Pack bonds are sacred," explained. "When a cub declares someone pack, it means they trust that person with their life. It's not given lightly, and just declared the pack bond with Dr. Han." The other were making sounds, quills flashing in patterns that looked like surprise. Stood slowly, staring at with new intensity. "The cub chooses you," translated. "Wants to know what you did to earn this. Cubs do not bond with prey species." "Prey?" felt anger flash hot. "I'm not prey. I'm someone who helped when needed it. I fed them, healed them, kept them safe. I learned to understand their language, and when I was hurting, helped me too." She pulled out her tablet and showed the videos she had recorded. Learning to communicate, solving puzzles, bringing gifts, and the most recent one from 3 nights ago when had climbed into her lap and comforted her while she cried. Watched everything in silence. When the video ended, the leader's quills had shifted to deep blue with gold threads. You teach Cub, you learn from Cub, you share pain with Cub. Yes, said simply, that's what family does. We are family, said Through. We are pack, Cubs belong with blood. And loves you, replied. I can see it, but also loves me. Why does it have to be one or the other? Made a harsh sound. Law is clear. Cubs stay with birth pack. Learn warrior ways, become strong, not soft like humans. Soft? Now's voice rose. You think love is soft. You think caring for someone in pain is weak. Showed me more strength in one moment than I've seen in most adult humans. That Cub felt my grief and chose to share it knowing it would hurt. That's not weakness. That's courage. The room was very quiet. Even the other had stopped moving. Your people value strength, continued. Fine, but you're measuring it wrong. Real strength isn't just fighting. It's showing up when someone needs you. It's being vulnerable when that's what's required. It's loving someone even when it's hard. Taught me that. And if your culture can't see how strong that is, then maybe you need to learn from your cubs. Squills flashed through several colors rapidly. The leader turned to the other and made sounds that didn't translate. They appeared to be arguing, quills rippling with aggressive patterns. Then did something that changed everything. The cub moved to one of the other warriors, a smaller one whose quills showed signs of recent injury, touched their leg gently and made soft chirping sounds. The warrior's quills shifted from red to purple, then blue. What's happening? Asked. Watched with wide eyes. That warrior, their sibling, they were injured in the same attack, and just used a healing pattern, one the cub learned from watching Dr. Han care for them, is teaching the pattern to their sibling. The sibling's quills brightened, showing wonder. They made soft sounds back to, who chirped happily. Then the cub went to and repeated the pattern. Is telling them, said slowly, that humans know healing ways. That showed compassion wisdom, that there is strength in gentleness. Looked at for a long moment. Then the leader did something unexpected. They lowered down on all fours, quills lying flat in a submissive pose that looked wrong on such a powerful being. Pack leader acknowledges error, translated, sounding shocked. This almost never happens, is saying they judged too quickly, that they see now what the cub sees. Rose and spoke directly to. You saved child, you honored child, you learned child's heart, but child needs birth pack too, needs to learn ways, needs family. I know, said, even though it hurt. I always knew couldn't stay forever, I just wanted them safe. Safe, yes, agreed. But also happy. Cub is happy with you. Cub is learning human wisdom. Looked between them, a strange expression on his face. I think is proposing something, but I need to check if I understand correctly. He spoke to the leader in broken sounds combined with translator assistance. Squills shifted through several colors before settling on blue-gold. They spoke for a long time. Finally turned to. There's no precedent for this in history, but is willing to try something new. They want you to come with them, to their territory, as human pack member. What, and said together. Has chosen you as pack, explained. Breaking that bond would hurt the cub deeply, but also needs their birth family. So is offering honorary pack membership. You would live with them, learn their ways while teaching them about humans, and would have both families. Mind reeled. Leave the station. Live with the whose territory humans were banned from. It was unprecedented, dangerous, completely against protocol. She looked at, the cub's quills were glowing with hope bright pleas. Both families together, not lose anyone. I would be the first human to live with the, said slowly. Yes, confirmed. It would make you a cultural liaison, a bridge between species. Thought about how he had supported her coming to 7 because he believed in building connections, not walls. About how he would have loved this, the chance to prove that understanding was possible. She knelt in front of and stroked the cub's face gently. Is this what you want? Both families together. Pack yes, family yes, please stay. Through the quills and the translator she felt desperate hope. The cub had lost its pack once already. The idea of losing either pack again, either birth family or chosen family, was terrifying to them. Okay, said, okay, I'll do it. Squills burst into brilliant gold and the cub bounced with joy. Even Squills showed pleased blue patterns, but it was who looked like he might faint. You can't be serious. You're talking about leaving everything. To build something new, she finished. To prove that different species can live together, learn from each other, be family. Isn't that worth it? She stood and faced directly. I accept your offer, I'll be human pack, but I have one condition. The leader's quills rippled with interest. Speak. This can't be about me staying in the background, learning but not teaching. If I come, I teach too. Human knowledge, human compassion, human ways of caring. A real exchange. Considered this. Then their quills showed agreement respect. Yes, we learn human wisdom, you learn strength, both better together. Both better together, repeated, and felt truth in the words. As she packed her belongings later, saying goodbye to her old life, she thought about the journey ahead. It would be hard. There would be misunderstandings, conflicts, moments when she questioned her choice. But when she looked at, sleeping peacefully with Quill's glowing content blue, she knew it was right. Sometimes the bravest thing you could do was choose love over fear, connection over safety. And maybe, just maybe, that was what being human was really about. 6 months had passed since left the research station. 6 months of learning, adapting, and building something that had never existed before. She stood now at the edge of the settlement, watching the twin suns set over the canyon where she had first found. The settlement was beautiful in its own way. Stone structures built into the cliff face, designed for vertical movement as much as horizontal, moved through them with grace, climbing and leaping in ways that still amazed her. At first they had stared at her constantly, quills flashing with suspicion and curiosity. The human, the outsider, the one their leader had brought into the pack. But things had changed, slowly, carefully, like trust always builds. Teacher, a voice called out. She turned to see 3 young cubs running toward her, quills bright with excitement. They had started calling her that a month ago, after she had begun teaching them about human medicine and biology. The title felt earned now, real. Hello, little ones, she said, kneeling down. They surrounded her, chirping and showing off their quills in patterns she could now read without the translator. See this. Learn new, show you. One cub, a small female named Ara, presented a carefully wrapped package. Inside was a plant specimen, roots still attached. For your garden, Ara's quills said. Found today, pretty like you said. This garden was one of her first projects in the settlement. She had brought earth seeds and plants together, creating a space where both could grow. It had seemed symbolic at the time, and now it was thriving. They found it strange that she spent so much time with plants, but they respected the knowledge she shared about medicinal herbs. Thank you, Ara, this is perfect. She touched the cub's quills gently, a gesture of affection she had learned was acceptable from trusted pack members. Ara's quills glowed happy blue. Emerged from one of the structures, much larger now and moving with increasing confidence. The injured leg had healed completely, leaving barely a trace. The cub bounded over, quills flashing greeting love family. There you are, said, ready for evening lessons. Yes, ready, also hungry. Patterns had become more complex as the cub matured, carrying layers of meaning that would take years to fully understand. But the basics were clear, was happy, healthy, and thriving with both families present. They walked together toward the teaching space, a large cave that had converted into a classroom. Other humans had arrived over the months, volunteers who wanted to be part of this experiment in cross-species living. There was a diplomat who helped navigate the complex cultural exchanges, and had come too, unable to resist the chance to study technology and language up close. Inside the cave, adults were already gathering. This had become routine, evening sessions where taught and learned in equal measure. Tonight's topic was emotional intelligence and trauma recovery, something that had become increasingly relevant as they helped the pack members who survived the slaver attack. Entered last, as always. The pack leader's presence commanded respect, but their attitude toward had shifted completely. The Quills showed respect equal wisdom now, not the suspicious red of their first meeting. "We begin?" asked. "We begin," agreed. She started by talking about what she had learned in her weeks about how the cub's empathy had helped her process grief. Then she invited them to share their own experiences. At first, this had been difficult. Culture valued strength, and many saw emotional sharing as weakness. But slowly, they were learning that sharing made them stronger, not weaker. A warrior name spoke up, quills flickering purple. "The attack, we still dream of it. The fear returns at night." "That's normal," said gently. "Trauma lives in the body and memory, but there are ways to process it to make it less overwhelming." She taught them breathing exercises, grounding techniques, ways to support each other through difficult emotions. Some of it seemed strange to the at first, but they tried, and some of it helped. In return, they taught her about pack bonds and how they formed, about the warrior meditations that helped focus the mind, about the quill songs that carried history and wisdom through generations. Recorded everything, knowing that this knowledge would be invaluable for human relations going forward. After the session, she walked through the settlement. This had become their pattern, evening discussions where they talked about the day's progress and challenges. "The young ones learn quickly," observed. "Your teaching methods are effective." "They're curious and brave," replied. "That makes all the difference." "My child speaks of you often," said, and knew they meant. "Says you are sad sometimes, still grief." "Yes," admitted. "I still miss my brother. I think I always will." "This is strength," said firmly. "To carry pain and continue, to love even knowing loss comes. We did not understand before. Thought humans were weak because you feel deeply, but deep feeling is warrior heart too. Different path, same strength." Felt her throat tighten with emotion. "Thank you, that means a lot." They reached the overlook where often spent her evenings. The view stretched for miles, showing the wild beauty of Seven. Settled beside her, comfortable now in a way that would have been unthinkable 6 months ago. "Tell me about brother," the leader said. "We share warrior stories, you should share yours." So did. She talked about his kindness and humor and dreams, about how he had believed in building bridges between different kinds of people, about how she was trying to honor that belief by being here. Listened with quills showing attentive blue. When she finished, the leader made a humming sound. "Brother would be proud. You build bridge strong enough for both our peoples to cross." "We all build it," corrected. "You, me, everyone here willing to try something new." Truth agreed. Movement caught eye, was climbing up to join them, followed by the small Kubara and several others. They settled around the two adults, creating a mixed group that would have seemed impossible not long ago. Human and adult and child, all comfortable together. Climbed into his lap without hesitation, something that still happened regularly even though the cub was getting almost too big for it. The quills glowed soft blue gold, contentment mixed with love. Safe here. Pack complete. Both families together. "Both families together," echoed softly. She stroked back, careful of the quills, and felt peace settle over her. This was what she had chosen. This strange, beautiful, complicated life where every day brought new challenges and new joys. Ara chirped a question. "Tell story about stars and humans." The young ones loved her stories about Earth and human history. Had discovered that she was a decent storyteller, able to make complex ideas simple and engaging. It reminded her of telling stories to when they were children, before the universe got so big and complicated. "All right," she agreed. "Let me tell you about the first humans who went to space, about how scared they were, but how they went anyway because they wanted to see what was possible." As she spoke, more gathered. Adults and cubs, warriors and teachers, all settling in to listen. Quills pulsed gently with the rhythm of her voice and felt surrounded by warmth and acceptance. This was what connection looked like. Not perfect, not without difficulty, but real. Two species learning to see each other not as alien and frightening, but as people. Different people, yes, with different ways of thinking and being, but people nonetheless, capable of friendship and understanding and love. Later, after the cubs had been sent to bed and the adults had dispersed, sat alone under the stars. Well, not completely alone. Had refused to leave, staying curled against her side. The cub was nearly asleep, quills dimmed to barely glowing blue. Her comm device chirped with an incoming message. From the human settlement that had been established at the edge of territory. They had news. More humans wanted to come, wanted to learn, wanted to be part of what they were building here. And the council had agreed to allow it, cautiously optimistic about this strange new alliance. Smiled. 6 months ago, she had been alone at a research station, studying animals from a distance. Now she was here, living among them, learning with them, building a future no one had imagined possible. And it had all started with one small moment. A wounded cub in a canyon, a decision to help instead of report, the choice to see a person instead of a specimen. "You changed everything, you know," she whispered to who was now fully asleep. "One little cub with a broken leg, and now here we are, building bridges, making history." Squills pulsed once with contentment, even in sleep. "Love you, Pack forever." Pack forever agreed. She thought about what it said about her brother being proud. She hoped it was true. Had believed that people could be better, that understanding was possible if you tried hard enough. He had believed in her capacity to make a difference. And maybe she was, not by conquering or claiming or trying to change the into something they weren't, but by being present, being patient, being willing to learn and teach in equal measure, by showing up when things were hard, by choosing connection over fear. That was humanity's real strength, she had learned. Not technology or weapons or dominance, but the ability to look at something completely alien and see a potential friend. The capacity to care about others, even when they were different, even when it was difficult. The willingness to be vulnerable, to share pain and joy, to build bonds that transcended biology. They were learning this too, learning that strength could be soft sometimes, that protection could look like comfort instead of combat, that the deepest power came from connection, not isolation. Together, they were creating something new, a culture that honored both warrior courage and emotional wisdom, a society where human and could live side by side, learning from each other's strengths instead of fearing each other's differences. It wouldn't always be easy. There would be misunderstandings, conflicts, moments when the old ways of thinking crept back in. But they had something precious now, a foundation of trust. Cubs like who had never known a world where humans and were enemies. Adults like who had learned that change wasn't always loss, sometimes it was growth. And humans like who had learned that home wasn't about where you came from, but about where you chose to belong. Stirred slightly, making a small sound in sleep. The quills glowed brighter for a moment, showing a dream pattern that had learned to recognize. Happy memories, running, playing, family all together. She held the young close, feeling the warmth and steady breathing, and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, where her brother's memory lived in the hearts of people who loved him. And here was Seven, where she was building something that would outlast her, a bridge between worlds that would carry countless beings across the gap between different and same. "Thank you," she whispered to the stars, "for teaching me that love is always worth the risk, that showing up matters, that every connection we make changes the universe, even if just a little bit." The wind carried her words away, but she felt certain somehow that they reached where they needed to go. And tomorrow would come, bringing new challenges and new opportunities. More cubs to teach, more adults to learn from, more bridges to build, one small connection at a time. But tonight, she simply sat with under Seven's twin moons, surrounded by the quiet sounds of a settlement at peace. Human and teacher and student, protector and protected. All the roles they played for each other, all the ways they made each other stronger. Squills pulsed one more time with deep, contented blue, and understood the message perfectly, no translator needed. This is home. This is pack. This is love. And it was enough, more than enough, it was everything.